Jaden Daniels is absolutely incredible, remarkably poised, just remarkably poised in any situation. No game is too big for him.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Monster Monday presented, of course, as always, by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Lots to get to today. We've got part 2 of that interview with Mike Golic Jr. I don't know, by the way, if we made that abundantly clear on Friday's show that was a 2-parter. I thought I said it, but part 1 was really talking about a bunch of the teams that hadn't won in the wild card round, like the Chargers, like the Steelers, etc., because we'd spent so much time with Nate Tice and Greg Cosell and others, me, previewing the games. And then part 2, going to talk to Mike today about the national championship game tonight. We don't talk a lot about college football, but it's the last one. It's tonight. It's a big, big game, Notre Dame Ohio State. So we'll talk to Mike a little bit about that. And then after that, I'll give you my thoughts on some of the news from the weekend, as well as all 4 divisional round games, as we know who's playing on Conference Championship Sunday. New week means new winners. Spread the word via social media, at Ross Tucker NFL, at Ross Tucker Pod. You are a winner, and I'll send you a glorious signed press pass or card or picture if you'd rather have that. Sponsor confirmation email winner, same thing. Take advantage of any of the glorious sponsors, westshoreHome.com/Ross, the Game Time app. My buddies are asking me about tickets for the Eagles. I just said, oh yeah, Game Time app, go for it. Then we also have the YouTube shout out, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Yes, you can watch or listen to the show on YouTube, all of the shows, even Money Betting, College Draft, which is already posted, Fantasy Feast. They're all at youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL, which is very cool. It's Big Show time, presented by Labatt Blue Light. I'm pretty confident Golic Jr. drinks some Labatt Blue Lights, just like I do, with friends, living life to the power of we. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer, Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York.
The Big Show.
All right, so Mike, we are primarily an NFL show, and when we're talking college football, it's usually on the College Draft Podcast with myself and Emery Hunt, talking college football and the top prospects and obviously making bets against the spread. So I don't mention it that much, though, here on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It's primarily NFL. So your Notre Dame Fighting Irish are in the national championship game tonight against Ohio State. So let's start with this, okay? Sell the non-NFL, non-college football fans on my podcast. And I don't know how many of them overlap on both. But I know there's a decent amount of people that are just NFL. Sell them on why they should watch this game tonight.
Yeah, I think when you hear college football, you often think, especially as an NFL fan, this is a lesser product. And you're right in terms of the skill of the players involved, normally on both sides of the ball. The NFL is the 1% of the 1% of guys that made it to play big-time college football now going on there. So you're seeing skill mastery in the NFL. This game, you're going to see some high-level stuff, though, especially when Ohio State's offense is on the field against this Notre Dame defense, where you've got 2 coordinators, and Al Golden for Notre Dame on defense and Chip Kelly on Ohio State for offense, that have both been head coaches at the college level, both been really well-renowned coordinators on their respective sides of the ball for a long time, and both have a ton to work with in the arsenal here. Jeremiah Smith, for NFL fans, is going to be one of those guys that in a couple of years, you're begging your team to do whatever they have to get on the field, because in a sea of the most talented receivers in the world that come out of Ohio State every year, this guy might be the one. We just finished doing this with Marvin Harrison Jr., and now we may already have turned the page and said there is a new best Ohio State wide receiver of all time getting ready to drop, and it's probably going to be this guy. And so that chess match between those two, to me, is going to be one of the more enjoyable things to watch. How does Al Golden and a Notre Dame defense that's been savvy, they throw a ton at opposing offenses, they're one of the biggest, the highest percentage of man-to-man coverage teams out there, they're fast and physical, all of those things. You get the full version of football as violent chess in this game with two gifted coordinators, but players on both sides that are some of the most gifted in the country at going out there and executing that at a really high level.
How many first-round picks does Notre Dame have on their team right now, do you think? Like, who are the guys that – do they have anybody that's going to be a first-round pick this year, and who do they have that are first-round caliber players? And just so you know the genesis of the question, I watched them against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, right? Georgia has three guys that are supposed to go in the top 15 in Michael Williams, and I'm blanking on the linebacker right now.
Oh, Jalen Walker.
Yeah, Javon Walker, and then Malachi Starks, the safety. You watch them against Penn State. I mean, Abdul Carter's ridiculous for Penn State. Tyler Warren, those guys are both. Abdul Carter might be the number one pick in the draft. Tyler Warren's going top 20. And yet I watched Notre Dame, and the running back's good, and they got good guys on defense, but I don't know. You tell me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they got a bunch of I think maybe that's what makes Notre Dame even more impressive to me is they beat some teams that have, like, serious talent. And I don't know. It's got to be – if it's anybody's, maybe it's a DB. Is it a DB or two? Because they were impressive.
Yeah, so I think, well, and part of the issue you're running into with this Notre Dame team, too, is there's not first-rounders this year. This Notre Dame team is insanely young right now. Like, they're 8 or 9 deep of guys on defense that are either true freshmen, true sophomores, like that in terms of eligibility. The offensive line's the same way. I think – right now, Benjamin Morrison, who's the defensive back who got hurt during the season's a first-rounder. I think he's the best Notre Dame defensive back that's come out in my lifetime. And that's saying something because Xavier Watts, his backfield mate there at safety, is the Nagurski Award winner last year. And he's going to be probably like a day 2 guy, I would say, this year. Maybe not as big as some people want, but really a player that from last year where he was a award winner and All-American to this year, I think has improved drastically. So, but then you look like Leonard Moore, the freshman cornerback, is a freshman All-American now, true freshman playing out there in his stead in a defense that asks you to strap it up man-to-man in a way Notre Dame hasn't done. So, like, you're looking at the future, but in terms of current first-rounders, it's been on that side of the ball. And then offensively, like, I don't think they have a guy that's going to be a first-rounder this year, again, because the receiver core wasn't off-used. The whole O-line came into the season with 6 career starts. And Jeremiah Love, who is, I think, going to be a first-round caliber running back, is a true sophomore. He has to come back next year. And so if you're waiting till next spring, that might be a guy you can talk about who I think is talented enough to be considered in that regard. But no, they are not a team that on paper is going to outstar any of the teams that you just mentioned, Ohio State included.
Holy cow. That makes what they've done this year even more impressive. I didn't know about the 6 starts for the offensive line. I mean, I knew they had a true freshman at left. Like, that is –
Oh, and Ross, the true freshman who was supposed to start at left tackle for Notre Dame this year at the beginning of the season, Torres Peck in camp. So another true freshman went out there and started. He has since turned himself into a freshman All-American in multiple publications. He is now out for the national championship game with a high ankle sprain and is being likely replaced. He could be replaced by the other freshman who had to go in the middle of the Penn State game at right guard, a position he wasn't supposed to play at the beginning of the season, and help them come back in the second half to beat Penn State. That kid might have to kick out to left tackle now. So that has been that season for Notre Dame. They lost the guy that was supposed to be their starting center early in the middle, or at the Purdue game this season. So even amongst that group, there has been upheaval after it. This Notre Dame season, they should not be here. This is the meme online. It's like, stop giving me your toughest battles. How are you still alive? There is no reason Notre Dame should still be alive at this point other than the insane depth of talent and the culture that Marcus has curated here, because they have gotten so many young guys ready to play in a way that I have not seen in my Notre Dame lifetime go on at this school.
That is crazy. I mean, and I'll give you another one. They don't win that game against Penn State unless the backup quarterback comes in and gives them that field goal at the end of the first half. Penn State was rolling them at that point. I mean, Penn State looked like clearly the better team in the first half. And then all of a sudden, Notre Dame goes down, they get a field goal, they come out in the second half, and then Notre Dame started taking it to Penn State the other way.
Yeah, it was remarkable. Steve Angeli, by the way, that is, I believe, 2023 or 2022 Sun Bowl MVP, Steve Angeli, who stuck around. Sam Hartman sat in that game. Steve Angeli went out and balled, and again, could have left, could have gone anywhere else, but instead stuck around in this quarterback room and has been a huge piece in providing depth for Riley Leonard, who you know they're going to use physically in the run game. They're going to put his body at risk, and so having a guy like Steve there who showed just how capable he is just another addition to the lore of this team.
It's funny because Ohio State's like the opposite. Last year, GoJo, I did Ohio State versus Rutgers, and they had all these guys that were projected to be late first-round picks or day two guys like Tumalo and Sawyer and Denzel Burke. They all came back. I mean, I've never seen that many guys, the two D tackles, Tyleik Williams, I've never seen that many guys that would have been drafted decently high come back to school for another year. Ohio State's like the anti-Notre Dame. They're all like older guys that could have gone pro, are going to go pro. It's wild. It's wild that these are the two teams. Do you think Notre Dame has any chance in this one?
Yeah, I mean, the same way they've found a way in all these other ones, you're not going to get me to doubt this team at this point. Again, on paper, there are very few places they should win the game. I will say, in terms of statistical justification, Notre Dame, we've heard about it all throughout this playoff run, has been the best middle eight team in college football this season. They have swung the balance of these playoff games in the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half, whether that's defense, special teams, touchdowns, the 2-minute drill that we saw in this last game. All of that's been incredible. And then on third down, Notre Dame defensively hasn't allowed a single opponent in the playoff run to convert over a 30% clip on third down. And offensively, they're converting at, I believe, about a 50% clip, which is up. They were 41% for most of the season. But offensively, they've been able to grind out a living on critical downs and distances. Riley Leonard's huge for them on fourth and short, where Marcus Freeman this year has pushed the gas down on aggressive decision-making. More fourth down go calls this year than in his first two seasons combined in South Bend. And so I think they found ways to win in the margins, and I think that's going to give them an opportunity again in this game.
Couldn't agree more. I said before the Penn State game, I like Notre Dame by 3. I think the Riley Leonard legs is the biggest factor. They're going to run him a lot. He converts third downs they shouldn't because he scrambles, and then he converts third and fourth and short at such a high rate. It's such a huge advantage, which is interesting too because neither one of these quarterbacks are thought of as like great prospects in this game at all, but they both have played very well at times, especially to help their teams get here.
No doubt, Will Howard has critical fourth down conversion with his legs as well. A guy who can be viable, help finish off games earlier in the season for them. I think it was the Penn State game where they finished off with 10 or 12 runs in a row, and Will Howard was the last few. So he's been a guy played his best ball when he's been asked post Michigan. Has done a better job turning the ball over. Less maybe regressed a little bit this last game, but he's been a force playing point guard in an offense with a ton of talent and deserves a lot of credit.
Check him out on social media at Mike Golic Jr. He is the man. You got to check him out on Golic and GoJo every day on the DraftKings Network. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Ross. Appreciate you having me.
By the way, Jack, I will be on the sideline for the Eagles and Commanders on Sunday. Very much looking forward to it. You guys can join me. You can be there, not on the sideline, but you can be at the game, courtesy of the Game Time app, where they got those Game Time picks, where they make it easier to find the better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater. I'm looking at it right now. Those of you on YouTube, I'm literally looking at it right now on the Game Time app on my phone. I always go with the all-in pricing because I like to see what it'll be all in. And then the view from the seat. You know about the lowest price guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ROSS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So again, create an account and redeem code ROSS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. You can get in for $495 right now if you want to see me on Sunday. Game Time app. Use code ROSS. So you already know that Smirnoff is the official vodka partner of the NFL and Super Bowl 59 because I've been telling you all season. What I like about Smirnoff is that you can get the world's #1 vodka without breaking the bank. Very affordable. This feeling is what the folks at Smirnoff call Smirnoff Extraordinary. They actually partnered with Complex, letting fans get their hands on some amazing items handpicked by celebrities, including NFL legend, Super Bowl champ Vernon Davis, for just $12.99, just like a bottle of Smirnoff. Head on over to SmirnoffDrops.com to check out upcoming drops and check out these Smirnoff Extraordinary items. Go quick, they're not going to last long. Please drink responsibly, by the way. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer. May vary by state. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age. All right, so before we get started, you need to know that playoff season's here. And the only thing better than game day predictions are the foods that come with them. Introducing Tums Fantasy Foodball Pool, brought to you by Tums, America's #1 antacid brand, and DraftKings. Each week leading up to the big game, turn football into foodball by building your best game day plate for a shot at winning a share of $40,000 in cash prizes. Inspired by game day bites and tailgate treats, join the Tums foodball action during this playoff season's most heartburn-inducing time. Visit DraftKings.com/TumsFoodball between January 6th and February 9th to enter for free and select your game day plate before the start of each playoff round. Age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at DraftKings.com/TumsFoodball. When you feel the heat of the game, don't let heartburn keep you on the sidelines. Try Tums Chewy Bites with a tasty outer shell and soft center for fast relief of heartburn, acid ingestion, and upset stomach. Check out Tums Gummy Bites, featuring a soft and easy-to-chew format for fast relief of occasional heartburn, acid indigestion, sour stomach, and upset stomach. Both available at Amazon, Target, and other major retailers nationwide. And for more heartburn relief fun, be sure to follow Tums at Tums Official on Instagram and TikTok.
Tuck's Takes.
All right, Ross, some news before we get into the games from this past weekend, and we're going to start with Miami with the Dolphins. They're announced as the home team for the 2025 game that will take place in Madrid.
Two thoughts. First of all, love that they're having a game in Madrid. Love it. Hope I get assigned to that game. I've never been to Spain. That would be amazing. Closest I got was Portugal for Memorial Day weekend last year. But that would be incredible. Absolutely love Madrid, everything about it. The second thought, I love that we're expanding the game to that country. Second thought is the Dolphins are also probably going into next year on the hot seat, right? Mike McDaniel, Chris Greer, they probably have to win, or their owner, Stephen Ross, might make changes. So now this is multiple teams on the hot seat, Colts, Dolphins, increasing their degree of difficulty by giving up a home game. That's kind of interesting.
Tennessee Titans, they make a move. They're hiring Mike Borgonzi as their general manager.
Mike Borgonzi was an Ivy League fullback for the Brown Bears. He's a year younger than me, so he's a year below me. So evidently we played against each other 3 years. I don't know. I was an offensive lineman, so I didn't care that much about the fullback on the other side. But any Ivy League player, they're okay with me. I'm okay with those guys. Because I know what it takes to go there and play there. So that's probably a pretty good hire. Really, really good track record with the Chiefs as well is Borgonzi. So good for him.
One of the more rare things that's always interesting when it comes up, the Bears, they called Pittsburgh about possibly trading for Mike Tomlin.
And I love this. I absolutely love this. And if you're a Bears fan, you have to love it too. The Steelers said no, okay? But I still love the idea that the Bears are thinking outside the box and even made that call. If you're a Bears fan, you want them to leave no stone unturned and calling about Tomlin, who makes a lot of money. So the Bears were theoretically open to trading picks to pay Tomlin $16 million a year. That's a good sign for the Bears, even though they're not going to ultimately hire Mike Tomlin as their head coach.
And before we get into each sort of recap in itself, do you have any overall themes from the divisional round?
Not as many as I probably normally do, but I do have a few. Like that jumped out to me, I guess, sort of across all the games, I would say, Jack. There's three that really stood out to me, and maybe I missed one, and if I did, you can tell me. Officiating, really, really unfortunate. Really unfortunate. That there was, I would say, on average, 2.5 bad calls per game. Off the top of my head, it felt like there were 4 in the Chiefs-Texans games. 3 went against the Texans, 1 went against the Chiefs. And by the way, don't like parse my words here. I'm sure there's one other one, but these are just what I remember. And I felt like in the Ravens-Bills, there were at least 3, 2 of which went against the Ravens. Right? And I'll get to them, but I mean, that was not pass interference on Tre'Davious White. If anything, it was offensive pass interference on Keon Coleman. I hated that call. I thought Ed Oliver clearly should have been called for a late hit out of bounds on Lamar Jackson. But I also thought, conversely, the holding penalty on Deion Dawkins, which took away a first down and points for the Bills, was bad. So that's 3 right there. 2 Ravens 2, Bills 1 in terms of going against them. I thought the Texans lost 3-1. I don't remember as many. There was maybe only like 1 in the Eagles, Rams, and maybe only 1 in the other NFC game, Lions and the Commanders. But that would definitely be one that really jumped out to me is, and that always happens this time of year where any officiating errors get more magnified. And I never blame the officials or rarely blame the officials. I blame not being able to use technology to fix what the rest of us and Troy Aikman and whoever, what we're all seeing when we're Tony Romo when we're watching these games. That was theme number 1, Jack. Theme 2, if you look at each game, the team that made more mistakes lost. Like that's all there is to it. The team that made more mistakes lost every game. The Texans was primarily silly penalties and taking sacks when they should not have. The Lions and Ravens, turnovers. I mean, they both lost the turnover battle significantly. Ravens was what, 3-0? I think the Lions was 4-0. I mean, you're not going to win games if you lose the turnover battle by more than, 3, -3, -4. You're going to be in major, major trouble. And then even the Rams. The Rams lost it 2-0 as well. It's not that complicated of a game sometimes, right? The team that won the turnover battle, I think, won every game. And then I guess the last one would be the weather. I think it's awesome. I mean, it was cold in Kansas City. That was a factor. Certainly the snow in Philadelphia, the snow in Buffalo had an impact on all those games. I think it made the games look, more aesthetically pleasing on TV. I mean, I think it's one of the things that makes football unique and cool. But I can also see the people that say, yeah, 45-31 at Ford Field with the Commanders and the Lions are pretty cool too. So I can see that argument as well. But I would say those, Jack, were kind of the biggest themes from the weekend that stood out to me.
All right, we'll start each of our games with Kansas City. Will Anderson, the Texans D-line, they kind of kept it close, but Kansas City still got a multiple possession win, 23-14.
Isn't that wild? I mean, the Texans outgained the Chiefs by 120 yards, and yet the Chiefs still won by 2 scores. I mentioned the questionable calls that were disappointing, right? 2 hits on Mahomes. The Will Anderson roughing the passer. The other one where Mahomes went down late and 2 Texans ran into each other. Did not like either one of those calls. Didn't like the offensive pass interference call on Dalton Schultz. Conversely, they did call Trey Smith for a holding one time, the right guard for the Chiefs. I did not agree with at all. But honestly, ultimately, the Texans really have nobody to blame but themselves. I mean, if we're being honest, I thought it was a very positive evaluation for CJ Stroud. I thought he played pretty well for the most part, but took some sacks in some critical situations that you can't take, to knock him out of field goal range or on fourth down. Just bad. They also, how are you playing the Chiefs in the playoffs and you let Travis Kelce have half the Chiefs' yards? You let Travis Kelce beat you. I mean, are you out of your mind? Like, playoff Kelce. I mean, he's incredible. His playoff stats are ridiculous, but you can't let that happen. Mahomes' game-winning touchdown throw was impressive. Oh, and also for the Texans, Kaimi Fairbairn. I mean, he had several misses that really hurt. The special teams gave up a big opening kickoff. You just can't do that stuff. And the Chiefs' defense made enough plays in the red zone. They got the key sacks led by Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Trent McDuffie, and that's what's been carrying them all year.
The Commanders, they shock the league. They knock off the Detroit Lions on the road 45-31.
Jaden Daniels is absolutely incredible. Remarkably poised, just remarkably poised in any situation. No game is too big for him. The Lions defense just could not get a stop to save their life. Their plan was to blitz Jaden Daniels. That did not work. That was not a good plan. The Commanders got a ton of big plays from it. Now, the Lions got their fair share of big plays on offense also, but you can't have the critical turnovers by Jared Goff and Jamison Williams, including the pick six, which was the biggest play of the game. I thought Jahmyr Gibbs was huge for the Lions, arguably should have gotten more touches. Lions losing Amik Robertson didn't help, but the Commanders lost arguably their best offensive lineman, Sam Cosmi, with the torn ACL. Shout out to Dan Quinn, man. The no-name DQ defense made enough plays for them to get to the NFC Championship game. Very, very, very happy for that fan base. Started and finished my career there. They've waited a long, long time.
Philadelphia pulls off a classic in the snow against the Rams 28-22.
Not a lot of debate on who the hungriest performance is this week by 11 Oaks, with the genuine Wagyu beef right here in Central PA, Angus beef, heritage breed pork, free-range chicken. It's available nationwide online. You can also shop in person at the farm store, Newville, PA. It's 11oaksfarms.com, and it's delicious. 11oaksfarms.com. Saquon again for the Eagles. Where would they be without him? I can't remember the last time a running back in the NFL had this many breakaway, long, to-the-house touchdowns. Those are rare in the NFL. Very, very rare. And he's done it all season long. It's incredibly impressive when he gets to the second level that you can already see he gone, touchdown, Saquon. Other thoughts from the game, Jalen Carter was incredible. The Eagles forced 2 critical fumbles in the second half. They were awesome on short yardage defense, but they were too easy on the touchdown late. Stafford was very impressive, but the drops for the Rams were not good at all. Hurts was taking sacks that he absolutely shouldn't. The Eagles missed opportunities all game, especially in the red zone, settling for field goals. The Rams' young D-line was impressive, and the Eagles' O-line, uncharacteristic mistakes. Jake Elliott was making the field goals but missing the extra points.
And the Ravens, they lose to the Bills 27-25.
I already mentioned the bad calls on the Dawkins hold, the Coleman push-off, the Ed Oliver late head out of bounds. But again, the turnovers were the difference. 2 bad ones from Lamar, both in the first half. The Bills ran it almost as effectively as the Ravens did. Josh Allen's legs were very, very effective, including those 2 touchdowns, although they didn't get the game-clinching one late that they could have. But ultimately, hard for me not to think about Mark Andrews. I said this on social media last night, at Ross Tucker NFL. Just devastated for Mark Andrews to have the fumble, which was a great play by Terrell Bernard, but then the drop on the 2-point conversion. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. Love me some myfrontpagestory.com. Best Valentine's Day gift ever. Backofficescheduler.com, humanheadnyc.com, Sporticulture, Pizza Boy Brewing.